Welcome to Redbeard and the Den of Tools. Howdy ho, guys and gals, it's Red, your friendly neighborhood tool bear, back again here in the Den of Tools. And today we're here to do a follow-up, a post-mortem, if you will, on the wrench comparison test that we did last week. Now, I was planning to include with this also some facts and figures on proper uses of a wrench and trying to debunk some of the myths that people were trying to spread. But the video got too long, so we're going to split this up into two pieces. So today, I promised you the post-mortem. We're going to give you the post-mortem. Tomorrow, we'll have the how to properly use an open-ended wrench for those of you who don't know no better. There's been some myths out there, and we're going to be busting them big time. But anyway, stay tuned for that. Make sure you've liked and subscribed so you don't miss that stuff, because it'll be lots of fun to forward to the people who think they know so much. Oh, it's always fun to send them stuff like that, isn't it? Just watch their fur burn. Anyway, here's what we got here for you today. So what we did was we simply went back through and we measured the distance, the gap, if you would, on the open end of the wrench to see how it differed from the previous measurement before we used it. And then also, we got the old USB microscope out, and I'm going to show you up close and personal exactly what happened to these wrenches. All right, let's take a look at it. Okay, and here we have some updated scores for you. So we measured the open end on these wrenches, and we got a variance score to figure out how much they changed. And what we see here is, now this is alphabetical from top to bottom, and the change here shows that in first place was, of all places, the Cobalt. And here we go, in a startling comeback, Husky takes first place. For those of you who hadn't followed it, there'd been a typo on the score for the specs on the Harbor Freight Pittsburgh, and that had actually moved it up of all things. And that had moved the Husky down into a tie for second with Tecton, and Gearwrench had moved into first place. But unfortunately, with these scores for Gearwrench, it jumped, or I should say fell, all the way down into a tie for fourth place, letting Husky move back into first place with Tecton close on their heels, and of all people, Duralast in third, the AutoZone wrench. Okay, here we've got Matco, and we're going to look at the end of the wrench here, and we can clearly see that we've got some significant damage on the wrench. You can see how much that flared out. Now this wrench did have some anti-slip teeth. There is not much left of them. So next up we've got SK tools. We look at the end of the SK. We can see there is some damage, not nearly what we saw before. Now, just to repeat, we put these wrenches through much more pressure than you should expect from a 10 millimeter. Okay, if you're doing that kind of pressure and you have to use it, you should be using the box end. All right, now these did have minor teeth on them. So we got something right there. Let's see what we got here. It looks like we lost some of the chrome. Look at that. That's interesting. And I will admit that I like SK tools, but one of the things that people have said is the chrome is not as strong as it could be, and you could see their structural cracking in the chrome from where the stress was. Or I shouldn't say structural, but stress-induced cracks from where the teeth were. Now this also had teeth on it. You can see one there. Yeah, you can barely see one up there. Again we have more chrome loss on the tip. Next up, we've got Craftsman. We look at the Craftsman. Well, first let's look. If we look from the edge, we're gonna start. We'll do that first, and we get focus. Come on, there we go. You can see we got flaring. Some damage on that side. Damage on that side, not so much. Oh, there's a nice little divot right there. Now, because this is brushed, this is a brushed finish, you're not going to see that kind of chrome flaking we saw on the SK. Now this, there you can see the damage there. And down there. Took a good beating. Next up, we've got Sun X. So here we've got, again, we got more chrome. It's a fully chromed wrench. Not one of the better finishes. You can see a little bit of damage down there. It did have some anti-slip, but not very aggressive. Not much damage to it. Now we look at Carlisle from Napa. And let's look for damage. Got some stray hairs there. A little bit of damage on that side. A little bit of damage there. A little bit. Nothing too radical. A little bit of scrapes there. The chrome's in good shape. Not bad shape overall. Next we've got Gearwrench. And if you didn't know, actually Gearwrench turned out to be the winner of the comparison. There was some adjustments made due to a typo, moving Harbor Freight up just a tad and pushing Husky down just a tad to tie for second. Now if we come in here, we see some scratches. A little bit of damage on these. And definitely that's where the anti-slip features were. were. Husky, which had been our winner before, now tied for second with Tecton. And let's take a look at this guy. He looks like he's in pretty good shape just from the naked eye. Let's get in here with the microscope, see what it says. I'm using a USB Celestron microscope. Come in here, check these out before. Looks pretty good. I'm not seeing a whole lot of damage on it. Let me check this, make sure that's not a... Yeah, that was a hair right there, so that came off. Looks like this one came through pretty good. Tecton here. We got a couple nips right there. Right there. Come on, focus. Now that's the raised part for the anti-slip. And there also, rather than having large teeth, they just have a couple bumps in it, kind of similar to the flank drive system. Came through fairly well. The chrome's not stress fracturing or anything. Not too shabby. Alright, next up. Right grip. Some people asking what they are. This is a right grip 2.0. 10 millimeter. There's your patent number, and you see it is USA made. So the right grip, now it had some serious anti-slip features in it. They're mostly intact. Looks like, oh, let me get down in there. We've got some damage right there. And some right there. It got beat up a little bit, but not terrible. Next up is the Knuckle Saber from Mac. You see we got some deformation there. And down there. Really bit into those anti-slip features. Now here, try to work with the light there. No, I just think that's just scratches. I don't think that's stress induced like we saw on the SK. And here we got Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh wrench says, a little bit of flaring there. There's the anti-slip features. They're pretty much intact. A little bit there. If we look on the outside to see how much damage we got. It's interesting to see on these less expensive wrenches, they seem to have come through with a lot less damage than a lot of the more expensive ones. We're going to look at the Blackhawk by Proto here. Some of the features on it, the anti-grip stuff, or anti-slip I should say. It's in pretty good shape. Not a few dings, but nothing too bad. The chrome looks decent as well. And we'll look at the Cobalt. A little bit of deformation. A little bit, but nothing totally out of proportion. And we look at the chrome. Chrome looks pretty good. Here we look at Duralast. And we can see with the Duralast, we come in here, we can see a lot of flaring on that. Fairly significant. A lot of deformation in it. Was really bummed to see that. Snap on. We got some little bit of deformation right there. Now remember, this is a flank drive. A lot of people think this is we're complaining like you didn't use the flank drive, and what you're thinking about there is the flank drive plus. So the flank drive just means that right here, right there, and right here, it's relief cut so that the flats here are contacting on the side of the nut and not on the corner. The flank drive plus are the ones that are going to have the ridges all the way down here. I had somebody accusing me of using the cheap snap-on, which I thought at $33 was hilarious. Alright. As you see, the chrome still looks good. Come down here, still looks good. Now, we got a little bit of flaring and deformation. Not excessively. But is that because it slipped quickly? I don't know. And lastly, the one that I thought performed the best and the worst at the same time. And that's the Williams. It did have the highest performance score, but then let go. See, we got significant flaring there. Significant flaring on the bottom. This opened up to the point down there that you really couldn't hold on to a nut anymore. Right, there you go. There you have it. There's your numbers, your facts, and your figures. I know lots of changes here. There was some goof ups with the Gearwrench and the Husky wrench. You know, we had the typo on the Harbor Freight wrench that, when fixed, moved it up a couple spots, knocked the Husky down. The Husky ended up being tied in second with Tecton, and then Gearwrench had taken first. But funny enough, in the end, Husky's back on top, and Gearwrench, it fell actually quite a bit. It did really kind of take some damage there in the testing, didn't it? I was a little disappointed. So anyway, let me know what you think. Remember, guys and gals, this test, these are all, you know, in the end, they're all kind of subjective. There's only been so much actual science we can do here on the YouTubes, if you will. So really the point of these tests are to just put the information out there to show you it in paw, to see how it performs, and have you make your own assumptions or your own, you know, conclusions about how these things, how well they did and how they should be used. I can tell you my big takeaway was, wow, I'm going to be looking at more Husky stuff. Also, secondly, I got to say, you know, I don't want to be the I told you so bear, but I told you Tecton was an up-and-comer, didn't I? And these tests just really showed it. And I gotta say, you know, talking about breaking the bear's heart, SK, wow, that chrome is bad. I've heard that SK had some issues with chrome. I'd heard also that they were addressing it. Maybe I got an old wrench. Who knows? But of all the ones that really looked like the chrome was nothing more than frosting on top that just cracked off easily, that was the wrench. I'm sorry. You know, in all of these, the takeaway was all the big names did not do nearly as well as they should have. In many cases, much worse. Snap-on failed. The Williams, which is a Snap-on, brand, also sub-brand, failed miserably. Matco was meh. Mac was meh. The SK, the other affordable American one, it did fairly well. It felt great in the hand, but that chrome, first use, cracked right off. Oh my gosh. I mean, what's a bear to do, huh? It's really kind of surprising. Anyway, as I said, you guys let me know what your thoughts are. I'd really like to hear them. Anyway, as I said before, don't forget to chomp that like button, ring the bell, subscribe. Make sure you're around for all the updates. You don't want to miss the video tomorrow where we lay the smackdown on those poor unfortunate souls who've bought into the myth about how a wrench should be used. Anyway, you all take care, and as always, shine on.